Sean Combs is at the defense table. He's still in his black shirt, though. He's not in a tan uniform. I wonder what happened. Diddy's the only extorter in this courtroom, Your Honor. The judge says, I've heard from the parties, and I find that the government prosecutors have proven that Diddy is a danger and that the bail package is insufficient on the risk of flight. Diddy's sitting there saying, dang it, I'm going back in. Diddy back in court, trying to get out of court, trying to get out of custody and go back home. His defense team has made a big proposal telling the judge, we'll give you basically everything. Okay, we're trying to sell the plane. We'll give up Diddy's passport. We'll give up the family's passport. He's sticking around, but the judge yesterday said, no, you're not going anywhere. And now we're talking about detention of Diddy. Will he be released? We're in courtroom 110. Sean Combs is at the defense table. He's still in his black shirt, though. He's not in a tan uniform. I wonder what happened. 2 U.S. Marshals are seated behind him. On the bench is Judge Andrew Carter. Now, we know why we're here. The judge says, government prosecutors, would you care to make your argument? Prosecutor Emily Johnson stands up and says, Your Honor, good afternoon. Your Honor, I want to start by just saying that these freak-offs were elaborate. They began in 2009 and they extended all the way into this year. And the freak-offs were arranged with his entourage. And Diddy used narcotics so that victims could continue and endure. Ketamine, GHB, and others. And Diddy would bring all these people into this room and he would record these freak-offs, at least in part, to use them to blackmail them. We have an email where a victim says that you were going to make me, and this prosecutor, Emily, she's like, Your Honor, I'm not going to say it on the public record. A victim says, you were going to make me, I can't even, or you were going to leak some FO type of stuff, like some F around stuff. Yeah. So a different victim wrote, Your Honor, he said he was going to expose me with the sex tape. I was drugged, is what she's going to say. And that's just 2 examples. And so, Your Honor, it's pretty rich when the defendant, Diddy, and his lawyers submit something that was filed today that accuses our victim of extorting him. $30 million is what they're claiming. Diddy's the only extorter in this courtroom, Your Honor. Now, we seized 6 guns, okay? They were in Diddy's home, and he had access to them. And so we are focused on the defaced guns now in his closet. And this is not about security, but it's about dangerousness. The security team is the same one he says would monitor him, and so he doesn't even need those guns. Now, the head of his security has now been served with a subpoena. And so given what we've learned about his role in the offensive conduct, head of security might be charged too. And basically the argument is, Diddy's going to say, those aren't my guns, those are my security guy's guns. And the security guy's going to say, they're not my guns. And why would a legit security guy need unserialed guns? So now about the hotel assault, says this prosecutor. Your Honor, yesterday, the defense counsel called it a fight in a relationship. That video where Diddy's running out to try to give that woman her cell phone back or something. And, you know, she slips and falls accidentally and he accidentally drags her back in while her head's banging around on the ground. It's a misunderstanding, obviously. And so the head of security has been hit with a subpoena on that, but it wasn't a fight at a hotel, okay? It was trafficking of humans. Now, the defendant, Your Honor, also had a freak-off on March 5th, 2016. And we have evidence that there was at least one commercial sex worker there in that room during the assault. She isn't even wearing shoes. Look, she's in danger, Your Honor. You see. And Diddy storms out in a towel. So we're still talking about this video. So they have one commercial sex worker there in the room. We also have a message from the victim, Your Honor, saying, I still have crazy bruising. Now, he claims that he wanted to go get his clothes back, right? He was just a misunderstanding, wanting to go get those clothes back. But that's not what happened here. She tried to escape a room with Diddy and a commercial sex worker, okay? She fled without shoes. She was so freaked out. She's like, I'm not putting that anywhere. Ah! And then he was chasing down. It's not funny. Now, immediately after the assault, Diddy sent these messages. He said, call me. The cops are here. I got 6 kids. Yo, please call. I'm surrounded. You gonna abandon me all alone? Now, Diddy knew he had done something that could elicit a police response. And so he covered up what he did. This year after the surveillance video came out, only then did he admit that it was him. Now, yesterday it was claimed that his clothes were taken, but that's not what happened. Why drag the victim back down the hall to the room? The indisputable evidence makes clear you cannot take Diddy at his word. March 5th, 2016 is far from Diddy's lone act of violence and obstruction. Yeah, but nobody's charged him for any of it. And he's not even charged for the March 16th event, as far as we recall, because it's old. But freak-off activity is the core of this case. They use force, coercion, and drugs. And so our investigation is ongoing. They're probably going to charge him with more crimes. Half a dozen escorts is just the tip of the iceberg, and the number of escorts who have participated in these freak-offs. This case is charged sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion. The acts were not consensual. And I want you to consider these other cases, saying the defense is arguing that anyone in a freak-off wanted to be there. Yeah, that's what they're saying. You want to get freaky, jiggy with it? Go for it, man. But that's not the law, Your Honor. They say when people are threatened with exposure and are beaten, they cannot consent. They're out of consent. That is trafficking. Victims' heads were slammed against car windows, Your Honor. Now, here is some text message, Your Honor, that we see. Someone sent Diddy this. They said, when you get effed up, Diddy, you knocked me around. I'm not a rag doll. I'm someone's child. Don't beat me. Now, we have witnesses who witnessed the injuries as well. This conduct happened behind closed doors, in houses, in hotel rooms, and in cars. Judge Tarnofsky was concerned enough about this that she found she did not believe that the defense counsel can control the client. And so consider the Mercedes case also in this circuit, which reversed the decision to release the defendant. So we don't want that to happen here, Your Honor. In other words, this prosecutor, we don't want you to get reversed, so don't let him out. Now let's turn to obstruction, saying witnesses have expressed extreme fear of him. They have indirectly contacted a victim in November of 2023. Constant contact with witnesses to the charged conduct. After a subpoena, before the government got to them, they're trying to reach out to people. Two of these examples, there are communications between Diddy and a witness. There's 13 contacts. Judge says, wait a minute, 13 contacts with two people? No, sorry, 14 contacts between the defendant and the witness, between one person. And also, he reached out to a witness that he had not been in contact with for several years after they got the subpoena. He used intermediaries to do it. And he recorded the conversation on another person's device. In November 2023, he twice called a victim. On November 19th, he received a text message from this other person, and in response, it reads, I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma. 3 pages in my experience. Your Honor, Diddy has called her, gaslit her. He's trying to convince her it has been consensual, telling her, no, you wanted to do it. You liked it. Remember? You loved it. You said that. He repeatedly said he was not supposed to be speaking on the phone. He tells her, or this witness, do not text me. He said, if I support, there's nothing to worry about. And what does that mean, right? If I have the support, there's nothing to worry about. What does that mean, Your Honor? It means money. So Diddy wrote, he told his financial advisor that should not make a mistake and not get that rent paid. Don't make a mistake and not get that rent paid. Okay, that was obstruction. He was trying to pay someone off. That's what's going on here. He was feeding people with false cases. And the prosecutor says, Your Honor, I want to go through all these cases with you to show you this. And the judge says, that's not necessary. Okay, please don't lecture me on the cases. I'm familiar with those cases. Well, Your Honor, just recently, there was a civil lawsuit. Last week, Dawn Richard filed a civil suit. She was in a band, also with Miss Harper. Miss Harper issued a statement after 128 phone contacts. And so we didn't deal with Lauren Ray's case. Judge Fox ordered detention, even on one victim. But the judge found that that was corroborated by documentary evidence. And so even a judge right next door is doing this in a civil suit. And so we're good. So anything else, says the judge? Okay, got it. Anything else, prosecutor? Anything else you have for me? She says, well, a few more things. He goes, how many more things? She says, 3 minutes. Just give me 3 minutes. He says, okay, go ahead. Traveling to New York, she says, also doesn't address the fact that he's not a danger to the community. Okay, I'm seeking detention here, but I note that the bail package does not have enough conditions that focus on obstruction, and so it couldn't. Okay, he's been involving other people, and so we can't let him out. Their bail package is insufficient. So he's got to stick around. Your Honor, he should be detained pending trial. Do not let him out. Okay. Judge says, okay, thank you. All right, defense, go ahead. Defense attorney Mark Ignifilo stands up. He says, Your Honor, let me start with Miss Harper. Now, I was called by her and a lawyer. I said, do you want to make a statement or not? And I later found out that she did. And then the second lawyer, Tenny Garagos, and says, Your Honor, and Miss Harper felt that she was being besmirched. And so we did speak with her at 2 a.m. on the 11th. So we did. So he did talk to her because she felt she was being besmirched. And we talked to her at this time. So they say we reach out to victims or to other people. Miss Harper, we called her. And yeah, we did. Okay, but after speaking to her, says the judge, what would be the reason for Diddy to continue contacting her? Why? Okay, he talked to her. Then she got a subpoena after they spoke. Why does he need to continue to talk to her? Well, she was concerned that she was in the media, says the defense. Another defense attorney says, "In Your Honor, today, I've also brought today the head of Sage Intelligence." Okay, we are proposing that Sage Intelligence personnel, all former law enforcement, will be monitoring the residence of Mr. Combs 24/7. So we have private security, we have a security firm that will be making sure that he does not leave. They will have 1 or 2 employees there at all times. There will also be a visitor log. Okay, only pre-approved could come in. They're going to follow your court orders. We could give the list to the court of people who can come in and go. Mr. Combs will not have a cell phone or access to the internet at all. And that way, there's no witness intimidation. Okay, it's completely nullified. Like, he literally cannot get on the internet. And we'll have a visitor log. He'll basically be on home detention. So just keep him home. This is nice. If you got, about $1 billion, you can make a proposal like this because it'll cost you a lot to stand this up. It's nice to be able to make that offer. Now, having Sage Intelligence on site will do what we have to do, even 3 there if we need to. You want 3 people there? We'll put 3 people there. We don't care. If you don't believe that Mr. Combs' actions in coming to New York are only about a risk of flight, that's not true, Your Honor. It shows he is deeply respectful of this court's authority and he's responsible. He's here. Now, Mr. Combs knew he was under investigation and he gave us his passport. We didn't take it. This isn't defense lawyer theater like they suggest over there. We took the passports of 5 of his family members. We have a letter of intent to sell his airplane. We had 3 buyers who didn't work out. They were interested in buying it and then they heard about the freak offs and they're like, somebody brings out the black light and they're like, oh, we're not interested. Deal's off. So this defense attorney continues to go on. The judge says, "Can you get to the point? What's your point?" It shows he's trustworthy, Judge. He's not a defendant who says, "Come find me." In Maxwell and Epstein, well, he cuts him off. Well, how does that relate to danger and obstruction? If he was aware in April, why was he contacting witnesses if this was coming forward? Why was he doing that? He says, "Your Honor, no, he wasn't. A woman contacted him, okay? She said that she'd gotten a subpoena and we told him, don't speak to her." So he didn't do that. So it's just, he said, okay, talk to me about danger. They say he's a danger to the community. Talk to us about danger. Your Honor, people who are dangerous and who are a danger to the community are people who are contemptuous of the court. But Mr. Combs has never been contemptuous of the court. He's always been extremely reliable. In fact, he had a case in New York in 1999. He came to court every time. He showed up on time every time, didn't have a warrant at all. Now, under your plan, says the judge, will Mr. Combs have employees who work for him? Well, Your Honor, they handle his finances. They will work for him, but they're in California. And under your plan, would Diddy be allowed to leave his residence? No, Your Honor. No, he wouldn't. He'll be there all day. And the security, they could be there in the house? Yes, Your Honor, they'll be there. They'll be there in shifts. And we could put cameras up filming 24 hours a day. They could do spot checks to make sure he's not using the internet. We can make sure it is as secure as we need to make it, okay? There are already cameras in there, so that's fine. The judge says, but the video about dangerousness, that video where he's trying to return that woman's purse or whatever, he says is troubling. He was 40-something years old. What was he doing beating women in hotel rooms and dragging them back inside? What's going on? Oh, Your Honor, well, he realized he has a problem with drug addiction and anger, which is perfectly valid. I mean, Hunter Biden hasn't been charged with anything. He beat the hell out of a bunch of women. There's videos of him. He had crack all over the place. He's got crack at the White House. So who cares, right? If good enough for Hunter Biden, man, and for all of the Democrats, the entire Democratic Party who excuse that, then it's good enough for Diddy, all right? He thought, I donate to Hillary Clinton. I donate to Democrats. I'm a big Democratic donor, all the things. So he thought it was good enough. So it's drug addiction and anger. Should be case closed. Hunter Biden didn't even get charged. The DOJ was covering up for him for years. So he went into rehab for a period of time, and the woman in the video also went into rehab around the same time, okay? So there was just a drunken, cracked out, freak off spat. Says they loved each other too, just like Fannie and Nathan. The written messages are heartbreaking, Judge. Now, the sex and the violence were totally separate, okay? They were motivated by separate things. The way they chose to be intimate, the way they would bring a third person on, okay? They chose that. Might not be your cup of tea, but if they want to bring in a third party, they're free to do that. Now, Judge says, all right, well, what does that have to do with him punching her or throwing a vase at her? What does that have to do? He wanted to give her flowers. Here, honey, sorry that you tripped. Have some flowers. Take them right now. What's love got to do with that, says the judge. Well, that was jealousy from infidelity, okay? He just got angry. So that was in both directions, all right? Mr. Combs and this other person. And so the violence is from that. And so the judge is like, okay, so there is violence, is what you're saying? So that's great. So what's your point? You just admitted there's violence. And so you say that they invited a third person in. Now, if that person is a commercial sex worker and they traveled across state lines, isn't that a problem? Well, I've spoken with the agency, Your Honor, and they say that they're not even paid for sex. They're not paid for sex, they're escorts. But if they feel like having sex, then they do it. So it's not even actual prostitution. It's not even commercial sex trafficking. It's just like you're going to hang out with somebody. And if you want to bang for however much money they're paying you to hang with them, that's fine. Now, Agnifilo, the defense attorney, so they're free to do that. It's not illegal. And the former governor of New York, he did it. Yeah, Elliot Spitzer. Yeah, what happened to him? That's right, he was. And he was not prosecuted. And so they're prosecuting Mr. Combs for it. He wants to get freak off with people who come. Every politician in D.C. is doing it. So let's get back to that video, says the judge, and that physical beating, because the judge is like, yeah, you're right. Shoot, you're right. Everybody else is trafficking in commercial sex work. Got it. So what are we going to do about this? All right, let's talk about the vase again. So why isn't that relevant to dangerousness? He says, well, it's not sex trafficking. That's assault. That's domestic violence. It's not sex trafficking. So call that what it is. Charge him with assault. Charge him with domestic violence. Charge him with criminal damage, with disorderly conduct. Okay, those are misdemeanors. Maybe significant damage. You bump that up to a felony because it hit her in the head or whatever. But it's not sex trafficking. And there's domestic violence that happens all over this country every day. People get cracked over their head every day. And they get out on bail. They get out on custody. And it's not sex trafficking. And that victim in particular in that video doesn't sound like she was trafficked at all. Now, even if you don't trust him, Your Honor, trust the bond package, okay? $50 million bond, no internet, Sage security. That's going to give the court comfort that he's not a flight risk and he can prepare for his trial. Now, we had known this was coming. If we wanted to run, we could have run. We would have left in March, but we didn't. And Your Honor, I want to tell you about his background, okay? He was an actual altar boy, like literally on an altar. The judge says, altar boy, how far back are you going? Like, is this like, what grade is this? Your Honor, I'll just tell you this. He watches a sermon every day. Okay, he has done a great deal to earn this court's trust. I ask you to release him, so please do it. Thank you. The judge says, okay. All right, well, I've heard from the parties, and I find that the government prosecutors have proven that Diddy is a danger and that the bail package is insufficient on the risk of flight. Diddy's sitting there saying, dang it, I'm going back in, not getting released. So the judge says, all right, so let's do the initial conference here. All right, where are we at with discovery? What's the status of discovery and evidence being exchanged from both sides? The government says, Your Honor, our discovery package is going to include photographs of physical evidence. From the March searches and from this week, we're going to include the freak-off supplies. There are a large number of electronic devices. We have a full 35 extractions ready to produce to the defense. We'd request a status conference in approximately 90 days. Defense says, Your Honor, well, given that he'll be in custody, I can't for now consent to any exclusion under the Speedy Trial Act. So if they want 90 days, like that counts against them. We're not waiving any time. We want a speedy trial right now. He says, well, I can set a trial date if you want to do that. If you're not going to waive time, I'll set a trial date. That's fine. If I can't try it, I can find a colleague who can. We'll set your trial right away. So he reaches out over to the government. He says, okay, well, how much time do you actually need? Whispers over to the 4 U.S. attorneys. I think they're all female over there. The Spice Girl prosecutors. Meanwhile, Garagos whispers over to Sean Combs, Diddy. They talk about 14 to 20 days. Okay, well, how about 2 weeks? Well, what's your position on speedy trial then? Well, I'm not prepared to waive that. So it's not 90 days, but we'll do it in 14 to 20 days. Okay, are you going to waive the time on that? No, I'm not prepared to waive it. Okay, well, how about the date? So let's pick a date first. Okay, what date do you want? How about October 9th at 2 p.m.? Does that work for the parties? Yes, it does. Great. Government, what is your motion? Prosecutor says, Your Honor, we move to exclude time under the Speedy Trial Act. Defense, what's your position? I can't consent, Your Honor, but I'll know more on October 9th. Fine. I exclude the time then based on the circumstances of the trial and in the interest of justice is the language we hear. So I'll exclude the time and the case carries on. Now, the judge gives us an update. He says, we received some calls today from people who say they have evidence for this case. That's interesting. We referred them over to the U.S. Attorney's Office. What about the local rule? Well, we wanted to flag. Okay, so judge says people are calling us. I'm just giving it to the government. Now, what about the local rule? remember the prosecutor was upset with the defense bringing up the fact that apparently this woman is threatening or was blackmailing or attempting to blackmail Diddy for $30 million or whatever it is. What about local rule? Government says, well, we wanted to flag the comments about the victim. We're not requesting action now, but we just want you to tell them, remember the rule. Defense says, Your Honor, it would be better if we put Diddy in Essex County, the correctional facility, rather than in MDC. Government says, well, Your Honor, that authority is given to the Bureau of Prisons, so I don't think there's anything this court can do to put its thumb on the scale. So you don't get to make like a notification, send him to Essex or send him to something. Prosecutor's like, he's going to MDC. Anything else? Nothing. Okay. Get me a joint letter on all this by Monday, September 23rd. We are adjourned. And so that is the latest update on the Diddy case. He's staying in custody. As a reminder, this always comes from Inner City Press. Matthew Russell Lee reporting. We're going to repost this puppy at the top of our timeline. So if you're following along at home, you can give him a follow, support his work. We're so glad that he's always there inside the courtroom bringing us these details. But Diddy is not going anywhere. He'll probably file some renewed motions later down the line. We saw the same pattern with Ghislaine Maxwell. She tried multiple times to get out of custody. He'll do the same, and we'll be here to cover it.